Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Scatterbrain, a collection from 2001 of the 1998 anthology miniseries published by Dark Horse Comics. This has a lot of good creators in it, and it was basically, the miniseries was getting all these random artists to do kid comics. Basically, they can be a little gross and stuff, but I guess today kids like a little grossness in their literature. Some of the children's books are a little scatological and things like that. But really beautiful stuff in here. And this very nice book. I don't know if you can tell by the size of my hands. It's humongous. It's very big, nice hardcover, beautiful printing. All around, I would seek this out and use bookstores. It's a very fun collection. Oh, I should point out, this cover's by Craig Thompson. This thing is insane. I spent like 5 minutes last night just looking at every little inch of this. It's got so much crap drawn in it. It's basically a layout of the brain. And there are some neurological terms in it, but of course a lot of it's just silliness. You see like sprockets and the little naughty thoughts. Just all kinds of nutty stuff in here. Sad feelings. All these weird little characters. There's so much to look at in this. And it actually continues on the back cover, where it goes down to his guts. And there's a little guy in a submarine in the stomach, juices. A guy rowing a boat on the anal canal. It's so weird. Just so fun. This must have taken him forever. Oh man, it's fun to look at. Really like that. Okay. It's so big it's kind of hard to get in the camera. End papers are by Craig Thompson, just a reprint of the back cover in incredible detail and blown up. Title page, more Craig Thompson. A foreword by the editors, Scott, Alley, and Phil Amara, and another Craig Thompson drawing. Drawing a bunch of characters from the strips we're about to read. I love this. Kind of showing you how silly this is going to be. Really well-designed table of contents. I like this, getting to see a little bit of all the artists. And here we have the first cover by Mike Mignola. Oh man, Mike Mignola is so damn good. And beautiful colors by Dave Stewart, as usual. These colors are just flawless. So this cover illustrates the first story, Abu Gung and the Beanstalk. And this is like a mythological retelling of the Jack and the Beanstalk tale. This character, Abu Gung, I guess he was cursed with an eventful life. I don't know if there's more adventures of Abu Gung. I hope there are, because this is really great. He's wandering around really hungry. He goes into this house. There's these two old sisters, like two old crones, and they've got no food. They're really poor. But they tell him that they once lived with their really wealthy father. They did, and a third sister. The father died. They squandered all of his money on jewelry and fancy soap. And so they were starting to starve, so they started pawning their jewelry to buy food. The third sister, when she went to pawn her jewelry, she bought 3 magic beans from this little like devil-looking creature. And I guess they beat her up. They were so angry with her. So she decided to eat the beans all by herself. And they point over, and we see the sister Polinka, who bought the magic beans and ate them. A giant beanstalk just grew right through her, grew out of her, and killed her instantly. So he says, "Have you ever climbed it?" They're like, "We're old ladies, we can't climb." So he says, I'll climb up there and see what's up there. When he climbs up there, he sees that little devil that demon that sold the 3 magic beans to Polinka. And he tricks him into leaning over the edge, and he kicks him off to his death. He lands right near the 2 sisters, surviving sisters, and it's almost like he's made of ceramic. He cracks open, and there's all these jewels in there, so they're rich. One of the sisters says, "We should share this with the boy." But then the caption says, "And though they waited a year, the sisters never saw Abu Gung again." And Abu Gung's getting hauled away by this giant bird of prey. So off onto another adventure, which maybe we never saw. Good stuff, as always, from Mignola. This one's called The Particulars by Killian Plunkett. I believe he's from the United Kingdom. Did a lot of Dark Horse Star Wars comics. Did an Aliens miniseries. Really good artist. But I think he's been working in like Hollywood, and you can kind of see it in this. This comic looks like a storyboard for an animated cartoon. In fact, it might have been. And it's pretty dopey. Nothing really happens in it. We see a toothbrush. We zoom in. We see the germs that live on a toothbrush. Pretty neat character designs. And they start tickling each other. So it just becomes this slapstick thing of these guys tickling each other. And maybe if it was an animated cartoon, it would be kind of fun. Just a lively movement, And he does capture a certain lively movement in his, art. But I don't know, it's just, okay, they're tickling each other. But it is kind of nice character designs, and he's definitely a good artist. But something about this just left me it just seemed a little flat. It was like, why bother? So here we have the first chapter of The Spinning Buddha, Pippin Norton, a Pippin Norton adventure. This is, of course, drawn by the brilliant Dave Cooper. And it's co-written by Gavin McGinnis, the guy who started Vice Magazine and then went on to start the Proud Boys. Very odd. But if you haven't seen Dave Cooper before, you can just see how good he is. He always draws these, like, surreal worlds. Like, look at this car. Even though it's the real world, like, these guys are just kind of, like, do the same stuff that you or I do. They get jobs or whatever. But it's this crazy, cartoony world that's just amazingly, beautifully drawn and colored. So at the beginning of the story, Pip is lusting after this new toy, the spinning Buddha. And it's got all these doohickeys, flaming Zycrobe action, and he wants it so bad. And so he basically starts harassing Norton to come up with an idea to make money, because he's the smart one. He's like, come on, you always get good ideas. Just his coloring, I can't even explain it. I guess it's a mix of computer coloring and other stuff, or maybe it's just computer coloring, but he's so good at it. He starts squeezing Norton's head to pop an idea out of his head. It's pretty silly. So they come up with the idea for a pretty lady lemonade stand, and they put on dresses and put, oranges in their chests so they look like they have boobies. And of course, they get no customers because they look like that. But man, these close-ups of Pip, I'm just amazed by how good they look. And that's the end of the story until next chapter, where they have some other get-rich-quick scheme. This one's called Juanita and Glenn by Craig Thompson. I think this was the back cover of the first issue. We have this character who's just speaking in UPC. So that was just a way to sneak up in the UPC symbol in the back cover. It's just kind of like a cutesy-wootsy little kids comic. This next one's amazing. It's Patrick McEown, great cartoonist. Started at Aircell drawing like straight kind of action comics. And then in the 90s, I don't know if he was hanging out with Dave Cooper a lot, he started drawing in this beautiful cartoony style. But this is like this whole new style for him. In the second story in here, he even says he's drawing in this new wave style. And that's what it looks like. It looks like that total early 80s post-Gary Panter. National Lampoon had a lot of comics like that, like Mark Merrick, Hercules amongst the North Americans. It's kind of like this jagged, punky looking style. And it's great. He's really good at it. So this is called Sour Milks, A Tragedy in 5 Pages, translated by Mr. Pato, Esquire. And it almost does seem like it's a bad translation of a comic book written by a 7-year-old. It's just, the dialogue's just nuts. We see this little guy, he's like, "Ho, I am having cereal. You are not." And there's a thing that points to us. It says, "You," pointing to the reader. "Ha ha, where are you hiding, Mr. Milk? He jokes me. We are friends." He's shaking the milk because it's curdled and it won't come out. It finally plops out, this big, disgusting, curdled bit of milk. "Are you sick, Mr. Milk?" "No, he is just sad." And then this guy jumps through the window. "Stop, you will catch Milk's disease. Are you an idiot?" And he takes a big bite of it. He says, No, I love Mr. Milk." And the other guy runs out the door. "Okay, but you're the ones who is stupid." So that's like, dialogues like that throughout the comic. It's so weird. This looks so much like those National Lampoon comics I was talking about, like Mark Merrick. Oh man, I love this style. So the cereal eater vomits violently out the window. It all lands on this woman, and a policeman sees it. And he runs up these stairs. I love the way he draws these crazy stairs in this building. And he barges in the cereal eater's door. "Look out! You are the face of crime, chum. Long arm of the law reaches you." And then that other guy runs back in, kicks him in the stomach, and the projectile vomit actually projects the policeman like 100 feet out the window into the sky. They hear these sirens. So they jump in the toilet bowl to flee. And they're spit out, I guess, some weird kind of sewage dump. Oh, I hope there's more comics of him like this in this style. "We are escape crazy." And they get in this car, Dukes of Starsky and Hutch. So they're basically living in the wilderness because they're wanted men. And he says, "Is it the end now?" "No." "They're hunting this crazy monster?" "No." And then their skeletons are in the desert. And the vulture says, "Yes." And that's the end. Oh man, that's crazy. This Kid Cyclops by Guarnaccia. And I've never seen this guy before, but apparently he did some stuff for Drawn and Quarterly after this. And I really like his style. It's just looks very like a European comic. It's kind of a cute gag where Kid Cyclops is telling his friend that he's got a job posing for an artist. And his friend says, "What does he want with your ugly mug?" And he says, "A lot of his customers are private eyes." So, you know, all those private eye signs, it's just one eye. He poses for him. That was kind of cute. The Misadventures of Tommy T. Rex. This is by Brian McDonald, writer, and Brian O'Connell, artist. And these guys work in Hollywood. This is very slick. And we see these parents berating their kid. We don't see the kid yet. And the mother's saying, "You need to play nice with the other boys." And the father says, you got to stop eating your friends. And we see why. Because he's a little T-Rex, a cute little T-Rex. And he's like, "But I get so hungry, I can't help it." And they're just gently scolding him, even though he's like literally murdering children at every school he goes to. They also say, no taking bites out of people either. And we pull back, father's got a hook, mother's got a peg leg. So later at school, this bully picks on Tommy. Look at that name, right? Let me double check. Yeah, it is Tommy. And Tommy's scared of him, even though he could obviously eat him. He gives him his milk money. And later on at lunch break, everyone's comparing their sandwiches. And they're like, what'd you get for lunch, Tommy? He's got a goat. So then the bully shows up. He says, I'm hungry. Tommy, give me your lunch. And he takes the goat. And then Tommy starts crying. He's like, but I'm so hungry. What am I supposed to eat? And he can't control it anymore. So he eats the bully. And everyone's quiet for a second. And then everyone cheers and put Tommy on their shoulders and say, hooray, Tommy ate Quinby, the bully. He's the hero. So when he goes home and his parents ask him if he ate any of his friends today, he can honestly say, no, I didn't eat any of my friends. He just ate his enemy. And they're proud of him. Kind of cute. It's a little too slick for me, this art. It's like those comics drawn by graphic designers. Like, yeah, these guys they know their shit. But I don't know, it just seems kind of soulless. This is the cover to number 2 by this guy named David Zimmerman. This guy's worked for every magazine. He's a huge graphic designer, and you can tell. This looks like something from Time or something. Yeah, it's okay. Oh, man, but this is sublime. Montgomery Wart, Life Could Be a Dream by Mark Martin. I don't know if you guys ever read Tantalizing Stories. That's where Montgomery Wart comics appeared in. And maybe a few anthologies over the years. But man, look how just beautiful this is. The painted colors. But it's all like this zany, goofy cartooning. But all the backgrounds are just amazingly painted. Even the gutters here throughout the comic are just like this beautiful, I don't know if it's an abstract painting. It's a beautiful oil painting, basically, instead of just having the white. So it just has this incredible lushness to it. So we see Montgomery Wart, and his grandparents are driving off. He lives with them. And they're going to sell their skunk beets at the market. And they say, when we get home tonight, we want to make sure you pass that ciphering test of yours. So study hard. He tells the bus driver that he has flesh-eating virus, so he doesn't have to go to school. And when he walks by his grandparents' bedroom, he sees that his father's strongbox is unlocked for the first time in his life. He's never seen it unlocked. So, of course, he can't resist. So he opens it up, and there's the world's biggest cigar in there. It's humongous. I like this, how the angels come out. And look at that beautiful, crazy sky. It's like something from a religious postcard or greeting card. He can't even light it. It's so big. I love this. He's basically praying to Jesus. Why do you tempt me, Jesus? And it's this crucified frog. That's really nice. And then he hears the voice of his principal with a bullhorn saying, I know you're in there. And then all of a sudden, this jet plane driving school jet crashes into the principal. Look at that, how that's painted. That is like photorealistic, amazing. Or maybe it's computer coloring, I don't know. And then we see poof. And Montgomery Wart lights the cigar on the huge fire made from the jet plane crashing. But it's all just a dream. And right when he's about to take the first drag, his alarm clock goes off. He's been chomping on his pillow all night, thinking it's the cigar, you know? And then he sees that the strongbox is padlocked. And he has to walk off to school, totally confused by his ciphering because he didn't study at all. Man, look at this good-looking stuff. Well, obviously he had access to a computer. That's obviously computer colored or computer designed, so. Here's a back cover by Craig Thompson, Toot Ding. Once again, incorporating the UPC symbol. I like when Craig Thompson gets a little daffy. So we have a Castle Waiting story by Linda Medley. If you guys never read Castle Waiting, it's a really good alternative comic, or self-published comic, I should say. It's almost like a medieval fantasy comedy, almost like The Princess Bride. Has that same kind of flavor. Really good stuff. She's a great cartoonist, and she's a really funny writer and fun writer. So these are characters from Castle Waiting. This story is called Hook, Line, and Sinker. The Abbey at this place, she convinces the stable boy to play hooky with her and go fishing because it's such a beautiful day. They first have to ask permission of the old man of the river, and they have to give him offerings. They give him some wine and some gold, and then they can go fishing. So all of a sudden, this beautiful woman appears out of the forest, and she asks the stable boy to come over and sit with her in the shade and talk to her. And she's totally flirting with him. And she says, isn't there something you'd like better that you'd rather be doing? I could show you how. We could do it right now. And he says, really? You can show me how to read? She's like, read? Because he's just really naive and kind of a simpleton. So she conjures this book. It looks like it's a magic book. And she basically says, yeah, you can borrow it. You just have to sign this borrow slip. And the nun comes over. The abbey stops her and says, go over there, stable boy. And she knows who this woman is. She says, nice outfit, Leeds. And it's this devilish little imp character. He was going to steal his soul. So he says, I'll take anyone's soul I want. So he makes a deal with her. He says, look, you want me to leave the boy alone? Set me an impossible task. If you can think of something I can't do or get or be, I'll keep my hands off him forever. Because he's pretty much like omnipotent and omniscient. He can do anything. So he says, I'll give you to midnight tonight. So midnight rolls around. Leeds pops up. He says, I'm yours to command. And she says, get lost. And he can't do that. That's the one thing he couldn't do because he's omniscient. And so he angrily poofs away, stymied, and she smiles. I gotta say, I'm positive she stole this gag. I've seen this story in like an old epic or an old heavy metal. It was the same exact joke gag. It was some devil who could do anything, did the same thing with some character and said, you know, and the punchline was get lost. I think it was like, if I had to guess, it's like Jim Starlin or someone like that. Here we have a Dog Drool Jewel. And this is by David Sheldon, another one of those graphic designers. This guy never did comics before. But you could probably see this guy was responsible for those log cartoons in Ren and Stimpy. You know, he has that whole retro 50s style down, UPA animation. We got a one-pager, Mud Monkeys by James Kochalka. Not really much to say about that. So now we have chapter 2 of Spinning Buddha. And Pip and Norton decide to throw a dance and, you know, collect money at the door to make money. So apparently they live in this town where music is banned. So it's going to be tricky. These three rednecks show up and they're like, we don't want no dance in this town. I'll try not to mention every panel, how beautiful it looks to me, guys. It's hard to just continue. I just want to stare at each panel. So these rednecks beat the crap out of him. And then one of them says, you fellas go on ahead, I'll catch up. And then he comes up to Pip and he's like, oh, shucks, I'm sorry, Pip. I guess I'm a little anxious is all. See, Shirley asked me to dance, and I don't know how to dance. So he wants to stop the dance just so he can get out of this. He really doesn't want, he's kind of mortified. But Pip is all excited. He's like, I'll show you how to dance. It's easy. You just got to shake it all around. This is so funny how he looks there. His butt is going ding-a-ling-a-ling. When this guy tries it, his butt just goes clonk, clonk. So Pip is like, no, you got to move it like this. Come on. And the guy gets it. He's going ding-a-ling-a-ling too, his butt, which I guess means he's a good dancer. So that night, it seems like it's a success. All these people are coming to the dance. And that guy shows up and tells his friends, like, come on, we're not going to wreck it. We're going to try it out. And they're like, what? Okay. I guess he's their leader. He winks at Pip. And so he says, Shirley, you want to dance? And she's like, yeah, would I? And he's doing great with the little moves he learned from Pip. And they're making tons of money. They have enough money to buy the spinning Buddha. But then the mayor walks in with his goons, and he snatches the money out of his hand. And he says, we can't have this seductive rock music. We can't have it killing our kids. And Pip goes off crying, stymied again. So this is a little confusing. So there's another dinosaur strip in here, and his name's Tom. But this is by the amazing Spanish artist Daniel Torres. I've never seen him draw in this cutesy, cartoony kid style. I think he's even in children's books, this character. But man, I just love his clear line style. This is so appealing. And these are just very cutesy little kid strips. This one's called Pirates. Actually don't like him that much. I love Daniel Torres' stuff. But his little cutesy style for this girl is just like, eh. Oh, but man, this is so good. Bronco Teddy. Co-written by Joe Woodring and Tom Dougherty, and art by Jim Woodring. I don't know if there's any more stories of this character, but I will track them down. This is so much fun. So we have this cowboy character in the Old West, and he's a fish, Bronco Teddy. And it's not really the Old West, though. Everything's weird. All these funny animal characters. He's hog tying this giant monster. It's like dragon. His boss kind of shortchanges him. So they get in an argument, and Bronco Teddy takes off. Quits his job and takes off. Gets on his horse, Sidewinder. Sidewinder's his best friend. He's an intelligent horse who can talk. And they're heading to the little town of Sourdough. Man, this is just such fun kid comics, you know. I wish these comics were around when I was like 6 or 7. He even has a guitar and he sings like a Gene Autry. Goes into the saloon, and the saloon is owned by Tiramisu, and she has a huge crush on Bronco Teddy. She's pretty obvious about it. But he always like makes a point to bring up her husband. Oh, how's your husband doing? And she's like, he went into the hills 9 years ago to dig up gold. He never came back. You know that as well as I do. But I guess officially they never got divorced. So it seems like Bronco Teddy is a little standoffish. Like, well, you're still kind of a married woman. He hears Sidewinder outside, and he walks outside, and there's this nasty-looking fella who's like fooling around with his guitar. Sidewinder's trying to stop him. So they get in this argument. And then this guy shows up, Dirty Cecil. He's a possum. I love the way he draws that. And he's pretty much like the boss of the town, you know, the corrupt boss of Sourdough. So Bronco Teddy's pretty much insulting him. And his little underling, that Weasley-looking guy's like, boss, you're going to take that kind of crap off of him? And he says, oh, Bronco's all right, Corncob. Let me have a few words with you in private. And they walk off. So that night he's coming out of the saloon, and somebody gut shoots him. Everyone comes out, Looks like he's dying. So Sidewinder says, put him on my back. I know a place that will fix him up. So he runs out into the desert. I wish I could read more. The dialogue's really funny throughout. It's just really an entertaining comic strip all around. So they're out in the middle of the desert, and the Flatheads attack. But they're not the Flathead Native Americans from our history. They're these monsters that look like garbage pails. Like, look, when they open their mouth, it's like a garbage can laid with teeth. And they're just like, what are you doing in our territory? You got a death wish? And they're like, don't you recognize me? And he's like, oh my God, it's you, Sidewinder. And I guess the Flatheads have this like mystic healing rituals. And Sidewinder says, remember, you owe me your life. So apparently he saved his life in the past. And I want you to use those healing rituals on my buddy. And they're like, we never use those on outsiders. But he does owe him a life, so he says, fine. He escorts Bronco Teddy into the cave. This cave. And look at this. I love this. All these crazy totems. The witch doctor. And they throw him into this pool. And he sweats it out. And they give him all these medicines. And then it works. He's cured. His Flathead friend says, this settles our score. You have no further claim on our charity. And Sidewinder's like, Teddy, we got to go right now. Don't look at anyone. Don't say a word. Basically, they were lucky to get out of there. Because once the debt was paid, they could have just eaten him. But I guess they decided not to. So they lucked out. Sidewinder informs Teddy that he found out what happened to Tiramisu's husband, Jake. I guess he went to the Flathead encampment trying to find the healing ritual, the healing medicines. I tried to steal it from him, and they caught him and killed him. He was doing it at the behest of Dirty Cecil. Dirty Cecil promised him a mansion so him and Tiramisu could live in luxury. But he didn't succeed. And then they ride off into the sunset. And I hope they ride off into another adventure. Cover the third issue by Sergio Aragonés. Look at the detail on this. This is really good. It's these guys on a space station, these astronauts all watching the football game while they're floating in space. And their foreman's coming out pissed off. So the first story is drawn by Sergio Aragonés and plotted, and the words are by Mark Evanier, his longtime partner. This is kind of like a funny EC crime suspense story type thing. I love this logo here, bugged. That's really nice. So we see this husband and wife. He's a out-of-work astronaut. She's an entomologist, and she brings home the bacon. She pays the bills. So she kind of lords it over him. Their marriage is not good at all, especially because she's not only works with bugs, she's obsessed with them. And so their house is constantly filling up more and more with more bugs, and it's driving the husband crazy. He does not like bugs in the first place. But, she pays the bills, so she basically just gets to berate him and say, suck it up. And all they do is argue. And then he gets a call from NASA. And NASA says, we're building a new space station. We need you back. And he loves the idea of getting away from these filthy bugs for 5 months in space. But she's like, you're not going. I need your help with my bugs. So he's just like, a shipment comes, even more bugs come in the mail. And she tells him that he's going to have to vacate his room and sleep in the basement next to the maggot colony because she needs more room. And he snaps. And he picks up this aquarium of bugs and bashes her head in. Man, that's a good panel. And he doesn't feel regretful at all. Well, he does for a second. He says, what have I done? But then he's like, I'm free. I'm free of this house full of insects. So he runs off to join the space station mission. Man, Aragonés does not skimp. That's some nice drawing. So he's loving it in space. There's it's a completely sterile environment, so there's no bugs at all. They get wrapped, they finish their mission well ahead of schedule. And the guy's like, oh shit, I gotta go back. But then the captain says, we do need a volunteer to remain here for an extra 5 years. We want to conduct another experiment up here. And he volunteers immediately. And he's so happy. And then on top of that, the new crew shows up. The scientists who are going to do the experiment for over the next 5 years. And it's these 3 gorgeous babes. And he's just like, I can't believe my good luck. This is the best thing ever. And he says, so what do you guys do? What's your experiment's going to be on? And they're like, we're entomologists. We're here to study the effects of weightlessness on insects. And they start unpacking all their bugs, letting them free. The guy is just, you can see him, he's losing his shit. One of them says, pretty soon the whole ship will be filled with them. Isn't that wonderful? And he just snaps, starts crushing bugs, and then walks over to the fire axe and takes it out of the glass case. And that look on his face, this is not going to end well. That's a fun story. I like that one. Chapter 3 of Spinning Buddha. Just more. I gotta shut up about the art, sorry. It's so fucking good. So they decide to get a job at this car wash. And this is the boss. She hires him. And they make it seem like it's the movie Car Wash. That when you work at a car wash, there's a big boom box and they press play as soon as you get there and everyone starts dancing to cool, funky music. So Pip starts dancing and the boss is kind of like, has a crush on him. Hearts are jumping off of him. Her other worker doesn't like it though. He's kind of like, Rrr. He's jealous. I like how Pip takes the sponge out, bites a little chunk out of it, and then puts it on his head like a piñata so he can wash the cars with his head while he dances. So I guess Pip is so fun-loving and cool, he wins the respect of that other worker. He says, you're all right in my book. So they're having a great time. Later on, Norton says, hey, another 2 hours. We got the money for the spinning Buddha. And then these guys, these weird alien creatures show up in this crazy car with these guns. And they say, give us your money, fools. And the other worker says, you're not getting any. And before he can finish his sentence, they fire. And these guns don't kill you. They basically, like, it looks like they sap your bones out of your body. They all turn to like jellyfishes. It's just fun art. So the boss says, all right, here, take the money. And Pip is crying because he was so close to having enough money for this Buddha. And she says, don't worry, Pip, you still got me. And she grabs him up into her arms. And all he can think about is the spinning Buddha. And he just walks off in a daze thinking about the Buddha. And the boss is just like, Pip, and she's crying. Sad. We get another cute little kid Cyclops comic. A little gag. Here we have a story called The Tales of Red Urchy the Bold, a Northern Fantasy by Keith Young and Steve Parkhouse. Keith Young's a Scottish writer. I don't know if he's done much, but Steve Parkhouse you probably know from, the Bo Jeffries saga, Resident Alien, probably hundreds of pages in 2000 AD and Warrior. He's been around forever in the English comic scene, and the American, too. And this is his great little comic style. Kind of reminds me of, like, you could draw from Mad or something. So this is like an old folk tale. This old man's telling his grandkids a story about how he met the great hero Red Urchy when he was a little boy. But it's one of those tales where what really happened back then, the grandfather's totally gilding the lily and changing it to make himself look good when he's telling the grandkids. Like, he first meets Red Archie because he's going to steal his bag, and Red Archie catches him. But he just says, oh, I was just wandering through the forest and I met this guy. Like, he glosses over all the negative things. So I guess he realizes he's just a dumb kid, and he actually even lets him tag along with him. He tells him the story of how he lost his horse, because, he's just wandering around without his horse. And I guess this weird cat creature came out of nowhere in the forest and attacked him, and he stabbed him in the butt. But then his horse got scared and ran off. So it's getting dark. It's a storm brewing, and they see this mill, and they figure they'll see if they can stay there the night to escape the elements. And the guy who runs the mill, he's really friendly to him. And then we see this cage, and one of those those weird cat creatures comes out and attacks Archie again. Archie gives him a sound thrashing. And then he's running through the castle because the guy who was all friendly a minute ago just disappeared. And there's like some secret lab. And I guess this guy's been abducting children and cats and like fusing them together to make these creatures. He wants to take over the world. He wants to make, millions of them, so they'll be his army. And Archie headbutts him, knocks him out. And as he leaves, he steals something from Archie's bag, some treasure, and that's how he bought his house. Of course, he tells his kids that it was a gift, a parting gift from Archie. I just love Steve Parkhouse's perfect comic style. Oh, we get another Patrick McEown page. This is the one where he says, drawn in the faux new wave style. Bring on the robots. God, I love this crazy new wave style. And this color's nuts. Such weird colors. This is just about a dream he had where he was being chased by robots. They look like people, but they moved at super high speed. I think I've had nightmares like this, where these people are just kind of, they move in double time, double speed, and it's so scary for some reason. These people all moving all fast towards me, coming towards me. It's horrifying. I wonder if that's a common dream. Great stuff. Here we have another one of those comics drawn by a graphic designer, his first time comic. Maxwell Escapes to Gillsville by Dave Clegg. I don't know about this. I'm sure this guy makes a lot of money from corporations and stuff. He's got that kind of style, but it's just kind of, just about this fish that wants to escape from his fishbowl, make it out to the open water. So he pretends to float upside down, or he floats upside down so they think he's dead. And they bury him, but luckily there's a big rain and he floats out to sea until he's captured again. Yeah. I remember there's every year there's like some cool looking collection, very slick, square bound, of like these anthologies of just, and you could tell they're these graphic designers. And that's why the books look so nice, because those guys are rich. I mean, that guy, Dave Clegg, probably makes more in a month than Mike Mignola makes in a year. I'm sorry, that's a bad example because he has his movies and everything. But even like famous cartoonists, these graphic designers who work for like national magazines and corporations, they make more than any comic artist probably. Here we have another Tom strip from Daniel Torres. This one's called Soccer Game. Another little kitty gag. Nothing much to talk about, but nice Daniel Torres art. This is the 4th issue cover by another graphic designer who never worked in comics. His name's Bill Mayer. First story by Jay Stevens here. It features this character, Audette. She's a this just very odd child. When she was a baby, she would slither around on the floor and hiss. Her first word was a curse word. When she was a toddler, she was carrying around a Ouija board and a wah-wah pedal. It's just a very weird little girl. So this is like her little, almost like an origin. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Jay Stevens. You know, God, he's been doing independent comics for like 30 years now. Atomic City Tales, Jet Cat. And I guess recently he's been doing that Black Phoenix horror series for the past, I think, 10 years now. So this is where Odette lives. That's her little house. I guess she's one of the richest people in the world. She became a little rock star, even though she's just 11. She beats up the journalist because he insults her during an interview. She's almost like Uncle Scrooge. She's so rich. She has all these crazy things. And so she loves jelly beans. She has this giant vat full of watermelon-flavored jelly beans, but it hasn't been refilled, so it's down to the last one. And this jelly bean seems to have a mind of its own. It seems to be sentient, and it's bouncing away from her. Really weird colors in this. So she's hunting with this jelly bean. Trying to drown it. She finds a monster in her closet. And then at the end, she orders 10,000 watermelon-flavored jelly beans. Here we have a little one-pager by Craig Thompson. The story so far, and it's just this fake, our story this far passage. Dr. Sockop, I think his name is. That's some fun stuff. Here we have Evan Dorkin and Sarah Dyer doing Fisher-Price Theater presents George Orwell's 1984. I don't know if you guys have ever read Evan Dorkin's stuff. He had that one-man anthology, Dork, for a long time. And just writes really funny stories. And he's a really good artist, too. Obviously, you can't tell with his Fisher-Price Theater. It's very generic. But just a funny guy. And he's been doing these Fisher-Price Theaters. He has a bunch of these where he'll like retell famous books of literature, famous movies, using the Fisher-Price toys. And he does them pretty faithfully, and that's kind of where the humor comes out of. How it's like we see Winston getting tortured horribly, but he's a Fisher-Price guy. What have we learned from 1984? Ignorance really is strength. 2 minutes of hate is never enough. Pretty clever guy, Evan Dorkin. So here we have the final chapter of Spinning Buddha. And their last get-rich-quick scheme is they're going to open a restaurant for dogs. And Pip's like, Norton, you're a genius. I love it how Norton just suggested it sarcastically. It even says sarcasm. But Pip thinks it's great. So they go to the bank. And you think the guy's going to reject him. He's actually like, that's the best freaking idea I've ever heard of. Here's your money. So they open the dog restaurant. It seems to be quite successful. Of course, they have to have a Lady in the Tramp homage. Instead of a piece of pasta, though, it's a cow intestine. Kind of gross. So it works. After the first day, they've got enough money to buy the Spinning Buddha. And they head over to the toy store. They buy it, they go home, and there's a phone call. So he says, Norton, you assemble the Buddha. I'll take this phone call. And it's Pip's like hipster friend. He's like, Pip, did you hear about the new whirling Buddha fireball machine, complete with the Death Raider 200 razor gun? And Pip is like sweating. He's like, no, but you know, I just got the Spinning Buddha with flaming Zycrobe action. And the hipster friend says, oh yeah, Spinning Buddha. I think I remember those. So obviously he's not cool, Pip. And the Spinning Buddha is pretty pathetic. It doesn't look nearly as cool as the box, just like a lot of toys we had as kids. It's a piece of junk, actually. It actually breaks. So Pip is crestfallen. And Norton tries to cheer him up, and he's like, you know, maybe you should look inward for your own spinning Buddha. This pursuit of material possessions, you'll never be happy, Pip. Try to find the magic that resides inside yourself. And Pip seems to get all like he's seen the light. He says, it's so clear to me now. And then he says, I'm going to buy a whirling Buddha fireball machine. So the whole thing's going to start again, obviously. Man, Dave Cooper, come back to comics, please. So next we have The Cluck of Fear by Chris Garbett. And this is, as you can probably tell already just by looking at this is another one of those graphic designer guys. I bet he makes more money than any comic artist you know. And it's just crap. This is soulless shit. And not really even that funny. Just looks lazy too. It just doesn't look like any work was put in. Like he dashed this off on his computer. And the colors are pretty crappy too. So this is an illustrator, a graphic designer, Greg Clark. I think he likes to go by Greg C. Clark. This is called The Poet Who Loved Tea. And this guy is like a major illustrator. Like he's won all these awards from like all the big guilds of graphic designers or whatever you want to call them. He does covers for all the major magazines, movie posters. He's like pretty famous. And he does have this really appealing style. Yeah, very New Yorker, you know. He's definitely done stuff for them. This is his first comic. And it's kind of just like a little kid's comic, you know, a little rhyming caption, just about how this guy loves tea. And it is very much reads like a children's comic, where nothing really happens, but he's just going on and on about like, oh, and then this time of day he likes tea. And when he does this, he likes tea. For politics and weather, he cared not a scintilla when taking afternoon tea with the fetching Priscilla. It's just stuff like that. But it looks nice, and I love his sense of color. These like rich colors, really deep. Nice stuff. We got another Tom comic. Not really, It's just another Tom comic. And here we got C.S. Morse doing Ancient Joe in Nazca, Peru. And I guess in Peru there's these things called Nazca lines, which can only be seen from the air. These like mysterious pictograms etched into the ground. So Ancient Joe is kind of like this, I don't know, mythological character. Like he seems like he would hang out with Gilgamesh or something. And he's walking around where these pictograms are, and they come to life and start attacking him. And they're basically like, you're trespassing. But then the other pictogram comes to life and attacks the other one and eats him. And then runs off. So Ancient Joe is saved. C.S. Morse has done so much stuff over the years. He's got a really neat style, but I don't think I've ever read anything by him I really liked. I don't know if he's a good writer. Maybe he is. I haven't really read much of his stuff. But man, he does have a unique style. And once again, he's a guy who comes from the world of animation. And you can see it, you know. We have another Evan Dorkin comic, Rock, Paper, Scissors. And this just takes it to a ludicrous extreme, you know. Rock breaks scissors. Rock ruptures paper. Paper suffocates scissors. Paper spreads rumor that Rock and Scissor are gay lovers. Rock sues paper. Scissor sues paper. It just goes on and on. It's pretty funny. Pretty clever stuff. Here we have a nice back cover by Craig Thompson of I think they're the Hillbilly Rockets. And just these hillbillies with rocket packs on them. Kind of funny. And I think this is a bonus story. I don't think this was in the original Scatterbrain miniseries. Pippa Norton in Zombie Girl. I've read this somewhere else. I can't remember where. Maybe it was in Guff, that anthology Dark Horse put out. But I wish it was in color, but it still looks great in black and white. And I guess Pip hasn't seen Norton in a while. He's moved to like the hip neighborhood. So he goes to visit him, see what's up. And Norton's got this hot zombie girlfriend who's got the top of his skull removed and just eats his brain. Picks at his brain all day. Pip is instantly infatuated with her. Even though, look at her. And Norton's even got this cool leather jacket. He's changed his whole image. And Pip, you can tell, is very jealous. So they go cruising around. And Pip is just totally drooling over Zombie Girl. They're in the back seat together. But then watching her eat Norton's brain, he's also repulsed, and she makes him barf. He swallows his barf. So gross. And yet he still loves her. It's so weird. He's repulsed by her and is infatuated with her. So at one point he says, "Hey, can I wear your leather jacket?" And he puts it on, and he looks really studly in it. So the zombie girl has hearts coming out of her head, and she's like, purr. She rips off the top of Pip's skull. I like this. It's like epiderm, soft cartilage, like skull. Squishy padding is most of the interior of his skull, and then the brain is like a pea. And she reaches in and pops it like a little piece of candy. And then, basically, he's been lobotomized. And Norton's like, "What do you want to do?" And he's like, I don't know. "Well, there's one thing I do know, Pip. You're a retard." That's how the comic ends. Oh my God, that's crazy. Then we have a nice 2-pager from Craig Thompson. This is really weird, but I like it. It's so the musical lump wagon, we see the kidnapping, the slave market, the manipulative tweak of electricity, and we see these hands putting like these electronic helmets on these little slave lumps. And this guy makes him a musical lump wagon. It's basically like a jukebox with live creatures in it playing music, and people throw money into it and, dance along. It's like a little party machine. And I guess it works really well because he's raking it in. What a weird design for this guy. And it's just bizarre. So they're traveling all over, making lots of money, entertaining lots of people. And then it breaks down one day. Smoke starts coming out of it. And so he just tosses the whole thing off of a cliff into the ocean. And we see the 3 lumps stranded out in the ocean on a log. They've only got one little horn left that doesn't play. Is out of tune. Just very odd. Really fun cartooning, though. I like that a lot. We have a page of contributors' notes. And the end papers again by Thompson. So that's it, guys. Scatterbrain. Highly recommended. If you can find this used in a bookstore. I think the original cover price was $20, which is a good deal for this much, like this big book, full color for the most part. And definitely worth picking up. I mean, God, just for the Dave Cooper and the Mark Martin and the Pat McEown, Mike Mignola, Jim Woodring. I mean, you got to get it. There's some stinkers in here, but, there's definitely some amazing stuff in here. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video as much as I enjoyed making it. It was fun looking through this again. I forgot how good this was. And also, I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.